Green Day, it's not whining, okay? Maybe sometimes nothing, but mostly a lot of things. Oh, come on. Talking about border security is not melodramatic. Let's get our smarts together, will we? No, you know what we shouldn't be creeped out about? We shouldn't be creeped out that a kid has a colostomy bag. All that and more right now on Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett. How are you tonight? I'm Alexander Garrett, and welcome inside to Keeping It Real with Alexander Garrett. We've got a lot to talk about. And first of all, I don't even care about that the government's reopened. I'm happy for the 800,000 people. But I'm also pretty much stewing. And to be honest with you, one reason I'm stewing is that I'm starting to see, and I've been seeing it for a while, that this voice and this kid who always saw the good in things and was recognized for that, this kid, by the way, thank you to my cousin Rob for preserving that. Yes, I'm playing a throwback on my podcast because it seems that now that I'm seeing something good in what this administration is doing by trying to protect our border and fighting to protect our border, it's not that. It's like I'm losing the light. On some ends. On some ends, people think I'm on the right to say it. And I will be relentless. And as the song The Impossible Dream goes, I will strive with my last ounce of courage, with my every ounce of courage, despite being scorned and covered with scars. And what's been flying way under the radar? It is things that are happening to kids, to life. I don't mean the Covington kids at all. But I mean 10-year-old out of Kentucky, 7 Bridges, kills himself because he's been bullied for having a colostomy bag. Now, I've been meaning to come to this podcast for a while to talk about this, but truth be told, I have one. And I thank God that no one's really ever bullied me about it. They've asked questions. They've pushed me, and I still get challenged, thankfully, by my girlfriend to still have all my supplies every day possible. Because, yes, the bag can break at some random point in the day. And who's going to be responsible for it? Not my parents anymore, but yours truly. And this thought crossed my mind not because of my peers, but because I picked up on it a lot more when I got into 6th and 7th grade. And this is very tough to say. This is very tough to be vulnerable right now, but I feel that this podcast is about vulnerability. It should be anyway. It should be letting your guard down. And I guess for me as your host, letting my hair down, so to speak. And giving you an inside look into life. Because for many that don't know, I rollerblade around the city on one leg. And I have things that I have to deal with on the daily. But when you see a kid committing suicide because of the condition you have, it should hit home. It should hit home. It should be talked about. Because his mother is now suing. Because the school didn't see anything wrong with what was going on with young 7 Bridges. And that's where they were in the wrong. Because clearly They should have been supporting him every step of the way in Kentucky. And they just weren't. I'll give you a little more of the story, by the way. But the mother, Tammy Charles, came home from a quick trip to the grocery store Saturday morning to find 7 Bridges had died by suicide. And according to the article, 7 underwent several surgeries after he was born. So basically around the same timeline as my procedures. By the way, this January is now 28 years out of the hospital after the first 77 days being spent in there. But he had put a colostomy. He had been given a colostomy. Then it was removed. I don't know why they removed it as he got older, but it was removed and he continued to have difficulties when waste would leak. Carrick Elementary taunted 7 due to the smell that came from his bowel condition. As I read this, I know what it's like to smell it. It's not good. It's a real psychological thing when you smell it. Okay? Because when you have it and you smell it, you think, well, is it in my head? Or is this real life right now? Are other people smelling it? So yes, I would say some of the time during my days, I drive myself crazy wondering if it's not just me that smells it. Wondering if, having been accustomed to this for 28 years, if it's my paranoia about it, or if it's real life. And I would never ask, because I find it very weird. But I should do more of this. I agree, Gabriella. I should do more of this. Should check it more. But I'm coming to this microphone today, to this podcast tonight, because when you have it, and you're not used to it, and even with you're bored with it, like 7 Bridges was, like I was, hours old, they put it on to save my life, and I wrote Queens College about this and thanked them for accepting me for that. I did a lot of unveiling of that as I got older, I realized. But there was... See, I don't want to say it because I just don't know how... I don't know how it will come off. Because I don't want to scare anybody. But let me be real with you about this. First of all, God has given this beautiful thing known as a stoma to those who need it. To pass through bowel things. Bowel movements. It's God's way of giving those who can't go to the bathroom normally a way of life. And people who have it have to understand that. 10 years old is not easy to comprehend that. And the school Carrick Elementary should have been on top of it better than they were. And I'm so glad Tammy Charles is suing that elementary school for this. Because they clearly saw it. So my first message to those who have an ostomy is, we got this. We got this. All of us. And I don't know. I've never been one to fraternize with the others who have colostomy bags. And maybe that was my fault growing up. Maybe that was partly my resistance to that. Shaped me differently. But there was one moment, and I believe it was 6th grade, where I smelt it. And again, I'm not planning on doing this. Ever. But there was a moment where I was like, should I just cut this off? Will that make things better? I remember ranting and raving about it too. And I didn't say it because I wanted pity. I said it because I was frustrated at the time. And then, literally a couple months later, I took my first shower ever at the age of 11 in the house I'm in now, in my house in Queens. And I changed the bag myself for the first time at age 11. That was such a big moment. And that was when I said, I'm taking this on. And ever since then, pretty much the rest of the time it's been okay, but I just am always paranoid. To be real with you. I'm always wondering if it smells or if it doesn't smell. Because really the only way I could tell is if I smell it. And as I said earlier, if I do smell it, then I wonder if others smell it. It doesn't prevent me from doing my job. It's not that debilitating at all. But what this 10-year-old suicide did to my internals, did to my brain, did to my soul, it woke me up to say, I have this podcast. And yeah, you might hear Donald Trump in a little bit. But I have this podcast. So why am I going to waste it some of the time on politics that we're already talking about? That you've already heard about. When there are so many other things we can take and learn from and grow from and be a community around. In fact, in the 28 years of my existence on this earth, this is the first time I've ever seen colostomy bag uttered in a child's bullying. Now, I might have been pushed around a bit when I was a kid for being weird, for being a little outsiderish, for being a little geeky. And don't worry, that Alexness has not stopped. It's gotten better, though. But that was one thing that never really was bullied. In fact, I think there was a lot of care that went into it. My friends wanted me to, and I should have picked it up on it when I was younger, but now I'm just picking up on it. My friends reminded me of it because they wanted me to better myself, to not let things go. See, the problem I have is I let things go. Oh, I'll check it in a bit. I'll check it in a couple hours. When in reality, people down the line have always said, no, you have to check it now. And I've been resistant to that. And it's funny, just talking to you on this podcast right now, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. That feeling of denial creeping into me right now. Like, wow. I denied that I had a problem. Anyway, I don't mean to go all Dr. Phil on you. But the point is that for those who have an ostomy, know it saves lives. And for those who have kids in schools where there may be a kid with an ostomy, teach your kids to understand that despite the ostomy, We're just like you, and we're just like your kids. And it feels like that message did not get across at Carrick Elementary School. At all. Because if it did, it would have been preventable. And probably the school is in denial as well. And so the suicide coincides with something that I find horrific. And I'm not saying a woman should not have a choice. I'm a mix here. I'm a mix that, yes, if a woman truly feels she cannot have the baby, she should have that right. But when you allow medical practitioners in the state of New York, or anywhere, but let's start with the state of New York, because this week, this bill passed. When you have the ability to tell practitioners who are making money, Planned Parenthood makes money on baby organs, and baby body parts. It's proven fact. Because our tax dollars goes to those abortions, which are in the thousands, by the way. That's not normal for a organization that says they're all about women's health care. Abortion shouldn't be in the thousands if all they care about is women's health care. I just feel that's fishy. That's just being real and raw with you. But New York State is some kind of special. Because they didn't say 20-week should be the limit. No. They said after 24 weeks. Which means the baby's fully formed. Which means probably up to delivery, they will be able to abort it. And that's tragic. You know why that's tragic, guys? You know why that's tragic? Because a baby is in the womb for a reason. And if it isn't, sure, I think our physical education, sex education has failed in America. Yes. But if there's no solid reason, except for someone being told to get an abortion, that horrifies me. Because if you can't handle the baby, but you're 24 weeks in, you shouldn't be given the ability to abort. You should say, okay, I'm going to have the baby, but I want him to have a good life or her to have a good life, and I'm going to hand it off to the adoption agency. And it's important to know that adoption agencies do exist. It's important to know that I do think Planned Parenthood coerces women to get abortions. I hate to say that, but I'm sure there are occasions. How can it be in the thousands, in the hundreds of thousands, if that's not the case? And so I pray for New York. I pray that people see through this as not women's health, reproductive care, but more to enhance the abortions. Because that's all they're obsessed about. And I hope you have an open mind to it. That you could see both sides. I hope that you could see. And by the way, why am I becoming more and more pro-life by the day? Well, when I was younger, I was like, social issues are social issues. You know, I'm personally for gay marriage. I don't have a problem with that. Abortion I really did not steer into when I was younger, because I didn't know much about it. But then 2015 came around, and the Planned Parenthood videos were coming out. And while they may have been, quote-unquote, doctored, the evidence was there that they were selling baby body parts. And I believe, as a man that has been born with one leg, that has been given the chance to survive, that has a loving family, I do believe in advocating for the rights of the unborn. Because they too, normal and all, deserve a chance to live. It's pretty absurd that a guy who has been given life, been given this purpose, I truly believe by God, on this planet, to not go and advocate for pro-life, for life in general, would make no sense. And it would be heartless. And it just wouldn't be who I am. Because I fight for life. People think I don't fight for life when I support Trump. But I do. I fight for lives that were lost, like Katie Steinle. Like Officer Singh. That our porous border probably caused. I'm fighting for life every day. I'm fighting for life in this country every day. And I know for a lot of you, that 7-year-old spirit I had has completely disappeared because I'm not going with what you believe. But I think the ultimate fight for life, the fight for survival, is to fight for protection for our country at the border. So I will fight for it. Now, there were some weird things that Trump said today that I found weird. Like, oh, if we build a wall, they won't have hope to cut in here. That's not the message you want to send. You want to say, we want those good working people here that want to make America better. We don't want to give hope to those who are coming in with evil intentions, who are throwing rocks at our border patrol. We don't want that. But I think the strongest statement actually came at the end, because he understands what we need to do, and he's setting up such a great foreshadow into February. You can't not hear this comment, because because for most of his speech, he was right on point today. And this really hit it home, that we do need a fair deal, that Congress needs to make it happen, or he will protect us all on his shoulders. Take a listen to this.
So let me be very clear. We really have no choice but to build a powerful wall or steel barrier. If we don't get a fair deal from Congress, the government will either shut down on February 15th again, or I will use the powers afforded to me under the laws and the Constitution of the United States to address this emergency. This emergency.
And there you have it. This emergency. It is an emergency when you see angel families outside the offices of Nancy Pelosi. It is an emergency when you see 24-week, where most states go 20 weeks. 24 weeks is allowable now to abort a baby in New York. That is tragic, and all of this needs to be addressed. And we need to be more helpful to each other. In the communities, and in Congress. And I really don't want to see Newman's Own's covers, those container covers. Because that's what I feel like I'm seeing when Pelosi and Schumer are on the screen. Just Newman's Own picture of the two of them on the cover with whatever it was, ranch dressing or something like that. I don't want to see that. I want to see more construction on barriers, on walls, on steel slats, whatever you want to call it. Because, and I've said this over and over and over and over again, if you want to see one community protected, we have to protect every community by having a protection from external threats, violent illegals, and internal threats. Why don't we work on gun reform together? Why don't we work on making examples of hate crimes and saying this can't be done anymore? And one other thing, why are places like Sweet Chick, who are opening their doors to federal workers who are not getting paid, why aren't those stories becoming national news? Huh? Why? Because that's the good news. What they want to say is Trump's the bad news, and everything else can go fly a kite. That's not how we roll here at Keeping It Real. That's not how we roll. The good news is there are people out there when Washington, we can't control what Washington does. We can only weigh in. But when we see stores and restaurants and other companies taking boots on the ground and helping people out, that should be praised. That should be noted every damn time. Hey, I'm Alexander Garrett. Have a great night. And I'm sorry if this was whining to you. Green Day, I'm sorry. But it's just bringing the heat. Because I'm tired of trying to be that cute little 7-year-old when there are real problems that this 27-and-a-half-year-old has to handle. I'm Alexander Garrett. We'll talk to you soon here on Keeping It Real. Alex G in NYC is my Twitter. Alex G in NYC is my Twitter. If you listen this far, thank you so much. Feel free to subscribe. And of course, email me, alex.garrett21@yahoo.com. That's alex.garrett21@yahoo.com. Have a great Saturday, and we'll talk to you soon.